thanks for stopping by. I just finished making this king-size quilt out of flannel shirts, flannel pajamas, and t-shirts, and those pillow shims. I've made some video project notes and I'm going to share them next, so stay with me. So here's the back of the quilt, which is also kind of fun. I drew my quilting lines on the back. It's all made from recycled t-shirts, and the raw edges are enclosed in these strips. Here's what some of the front squares look like, and you can see that some are pieced and some are just big 10-inch squares. All of these were flannel shirts from my kids, and some pairs of men's flannel pajamas. This one and this black one was men's flannel pajamas. With the exception of the thread that I purchased and these pajamas that I thrifted, everything else was already in my house. The t-shirts came from my friend who was cleaning her house out, and these were all her son's t-shirts. So here is a completed square. That's the t-shirt backing, and this is the pieced front. And several squares are like one big piece of flannel. And there's the t-shirt backing. I drew the quilting lines on the backing and then hand quilted them. Now I'm going to put the two squares together and do the hand quilting. So there's the front one. And there's the drawn on quilt lines. They're drawn with dressmaker's chalk and a ruler. And to make the puffiness, I have some reused pillow stuffing. And I'm going to kind of spread it out and make it in a thin layer. And because this is flannel, it just kind of sticks until I'm ready. And I'm going to fill up the whole square. So now I'm going to put my t-shirt backing. I had enough t-shirts that most of the backings were not pieced, but I did piece some of them. So now I'm going to use some big safety pins to hold it together. 90 of these squares so far. I'm estimating that I need 100 to make my king size quilt. So this is my 91st, and I'm looking very much forward to being done. So I've just got another short piece of thread here, and I'm going to do my last, get in the middle, my last line of quilting, and then I'm going to finish my last 9 squares and get the quilt put together. And it's nice and squishy and soft. And I'm not too worried if some of my squares have more stuffing than other ones. Or as you can see, my piecing isn't perfect here either. It's a scrap quilt and I'm okay with that. My whole vision is that this quilt is something comfy and cozy and used in the winter, and it's made entirely from salvaged fabrics and stuffing, and it's handmade, not perfect, and I like that feel and look for things in my home. So I have all my squares labeled. I'm starting at the top with A and going to the bottom with B, and the upper left is 1 to 11. And the orientation of the sticky is going to help me know that this way is to the top of the bed, this way is to the bottom, left, right, and that I'm sewing the seams this way first, which is sewing my rows together. And all those stickies will be pinned on and stay there until I'm done sewing. I've started sewing together my squares by row, and I'm using my sewing machine with the regular foot, and it is working out quite well. I'm not having any problems with stretching or too much problems, like nothing's curled up. It's all my basting stitches are staying hidden inside the main seam, and my seam allowance is staying very close to 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so this is the one that I made with this bias tape maker, and it is finishing at 3/4 of an inch. I am worried that my seam is still going to bunch up even after it's sewn down. I have this bias tape maker, which comes out at 1/2 an inch, but it doesn't, my cot flannel is too flimsy to work with the feeding. So I can't get that to work. So I press this manually. This is, and I think I'm going to be pressing my luck that it's going to, that my seams are a perfect 1/2 an inch, my seam allowances. So what I've done is I've cut my strip to 1.25 inches, which gives me 5/8 of an inch. And I think that's going to be my happy medium. What that means is I'm going to be pressing all these strips by hand. I'm not going to be able to use my little tool. And for the short ones, that's going to be okay. But when I get to the long ones, I'm probably not going to enjoy my life that much. Okay, so there's one side done. And it did catch the edge in quite a few places. Here's a spot where it did not catch. You can get that. There it is there. See, it didn't catch there. But I think that might be enough to hold it down once the quilt's assembled. So I'm going to do the other side. So it's only centered in some of it, but you know what, I think that's okay. It's very tidy. I'm not 100% loving this little bulge right here, but I think I might get better as I go along. I've just joined my first 2 rows, and this is the join of the strips. It turned out to be quite easy to match them up, but I'm not happy with this bulk. At least I had the brainwave to add this strip just when the first 2 rows are joined, instead of waiting until all the rows were joined to add the strips. Before I add the strip, I'm going to pick out these stitches and cut right there, and that should help, I hope, because there's still also the double amount of seam from there. Let's see how that goes. So I tried, unpicking the stitching and then just cutting the gray, but I wasn't happy with how that turned out, and it was rather a pain in the neck. So what I've tried up now is just cutting this close to the stitching, and it turned out pretty nicely once I pressed the seams open. On either side, it gave me a flat surface to sew my long cover strip to. And because I know I'm doing it like that now, I've back stitched across each of these horizontal, vertical, whichever way, cover strips. So I feel confident to cut them close to the stitching. So here is the last long cover strip that I sewed. And it's okay. It's flat on that join. It feels okay there. There's no bulk, and the seam is open underneath. And it looks okay from the other side too. So that's not bad for a beginner. Here's another corner that looks pretty good too. I'm working on binding my quilt now, and this binding strip is 2.5 inches wide, so it folds to 1 1/4. And the way I did it was I machine sewed on the right side of the quilt the edge, the open edge, so that will be enclosed. Here it is right here. And then it's folded over, and I'm hand sewing it down on the back. This is following lots of different tutorials online on YouTube on how to bind a quilt, and it's turned out okay. But this is the whole quilt here, and I think I've only got one side done, and so it's going to be a fair bit of hand sewing. But that's the last job, so I'm excited to see how this is going to be on our bed. So it's the hand sewing that takes a while to get it on, but it's worth it. And as I'm thinking about the fact that I'm going to use this as a topper in the winter on my bed, I realize I probably would like to have some pillow shams that match. So I don't think I can call this project quite finished with the finishing of the quilt part, because I think I want to make pillow shams next. And I've already picked the project I want to do after this one, and I find myself resenting those pillow shams because I'm already in my head, I've moved on to that next project and started thinking about what I want to do and how I want to do it, which is sort of cheating myself out of enjoying the end of this project. So I thought if I filmed some of the binding and said some of that out loud to myself on video, I might be able to just enjoy the fact that this project is in the home stretch. So I'm finished, and I'm going to go put it on the bed, But in the meantime, I'm trying to plan out my shams. These are my flannel scraps that didn't get incorporated into the quilt. You know, maybe these shams are going to be a good use, and I don't have to get, you know, I'll have less waste in the project. And I only had tiny scraps of fabric left to make up squares, so I've used my gray flannel sheet to supplement and augment. I was experimenting with like a square type shape, but I think my pieces are too uneven, so I'm going to redo the layout and see how I can get it to work and sew them together, and that will be one pillow sham, and then I need two. So this is what happens when I'm a little casual about measuring. Here are my 4 rows sewed together and ready to be joined, and I have a good 1.5 inches short on my top strip. This is about 1/2 inch short, but that we could ease in. And I mean, I'm not that fussy about things joining up, but I'm not sure. Well, here's a big chunk of where I went wrong. So one of these squares wasn't the size it should have been. And it's all going to be a problem right there. So again, luckily I'm casual, so I'm gonna just add that piece right there. Here's my finished quilt and pillow shams. It has a real cabin in the woods kind of vibe, and I'm so pleased with how it turned out. We've been sleeping with this quilt for about 2 weeks now, and we find it really comfy and cozy. I hope you enjoyed the project notes, and I'll see you again next time.